Hello everyone, so today I've got for you a review of a trio of 3 new test scents from Bath & Body Works White Barn Candle Company. As you can see, they are floral scents within the Fresh Picked Spring Collection. These are currently in at least some test stores. I have no info as far as if and when they'll release wide. I would assume that perhaps they may in the spring, or maybe they'll release them as kind of an extension of the Part 1 Fresh Picked collection. They could release these maybe around Mother's Day, or they may just be testing scents in current packaging to be released later on within a different collection, or just, maybe the best selling is a Mother's Day fragrance or something like that. The interesting thing with these is they are 3 seemingly at least brand new fragrances. We've got Majestic Rose, Lily of the Valley, and Golden Sunflower. Now I apologize if the lighting is a little bit intense here. I'm trying to get some sunlight, but it's a little bit shadowy there. Anyhow, it's kind of weird to me that these are florals within the Fresh Picked collection when they've got the Garden Party collection or the White Barn collection. They're the ones that usually do more of the florals. But Fresh Picked, I guess, at this point can mean anything from like fresh herbals, like, your lemon cucumber kind of thing, or sweet spearmint that fails out of test scent, or in this case, pure florals. So I'll give you my standard sort of in-depth sniff and review, and I'll try to compare these to some past scents. But they're a little bit difficult to compare. I've had these for a few days. I mentioned it on facebook.com/TouchTheFireTwice. So if you don't follow me there, please do check out that page. And we can sort of continue the conversation, and I always post photos when I first purchase things before I do my YouTube reviews. So that's, again, facebook.com/TouchTheFireTwice. But yeah, so these ones, I've had them for a few days, and I didn't have the time to make the review, but also it was more that I was trying to figure out what they reminded me of, because some of them seem familiar or just kind of difficult to describe. So let's start with maybe the easiest one. So first of all, Lily of the Valley. So this is, again, these are the Fresh Picked collection with the galvanized lids, and then the sort of the same, the art as the rest of the Fresh Picked collection. So that's Lily of the Valley. The notes on this one are: one of the beauties of the spring garden, Lily of the Valley is at the heart of this soft floral blend that also features hints of lilac and bergamot. All right, so Lily of the Valley, lilac, and bergamot. So which is, sort of an intense orange. This is very nice. I'm not sure why this was released, really, when I think about it, though, because it's so similar to Lilac Blossom. Now, to compare these to past scents, I've got a handful of past floral scents, including Flower Shop, Lilac Blossom, First Bloom, Southern Magnolia, and Lotus Flower, to all kind of sniff and compare these two. And this one, if I compare it to, say, last year's Lilac Blossom here, I mean, they're clearly different scents, and Lilac Blossom came out again this year. Lilac Blossom is more of a strong, pure lilac. But Lily of the Valley kind of just seems like a subdued version of that. Less of the kind of fresh green. Not that Lilac Blossom has green, but, like it says here, freshly cut lilac blossoms with a hint of Lily of the Valley and delicate violet create the ultimate spring fragrance. So really, if Lilac Blossom has lilac, Lily of the Valley, and violets, and Lily of the Valley has Lily of the Valley with lilac and bergamot, really the notes are very similar. Now, yeah, they're kind of like, you don't need both of them. Lilac is maybe a little more powdery. Again, mostly just stronger. Lily of the Valley, it is nice. Now, I failed to mention there was a fourth candle in this group that was Farm Stand Freesia, not to be confused with Garden Freesia from last year. I figured it would be just a repackage, but actually, from my memory, it smelled completely different. Whereas Garden Freesia last year was kind of, old Southern home, a little bit kind of classic grandma floral to me, which I liked. The Farm Stand Freesia smelled weird. It was a little bit fresher. It had either like a sweetness to it, or like maybe like a bergamot or some sort of citrus, where they almost tried to make it a little bit more into like certainly not a cologne, but and not really a perfumey kind of floral like you'd expect a typical perfumey floral to be. But it just wasn't a pure, authentic blend the way that Garden Freesia was to me. And there was something in it that was just a little bit either slightly masculine, like a unisex fragrance, or something where I really didn't get Freesia as the main thing, and when you're saying farm stand freezer, that's what you expect. So I didn't get that one, but I did put a photo of it on the Facebook page if you want to see what the label looked like. But back to Lily of the Valley. Let me get a good sniff here. I do like it. It's light, fresh, floral, unoffensive, clean. Yeah, kind of bordering generic. I'm not sure that if I would have smelled this directly next to Lilac Blossom, I may not have purchased this just because they really are quite similar. I don't really get much of a bergamot. Again, this is very light. Hint of maybe a watery note to it, but very little. There's a tiny bit of powder, a tiny bit of water to it. Interesting, but not a must-have. Then we move on to Golden Sunflower, which kind of, the wax and the label on this one are a little underwhelming to me. Now, there was a sunflower fragrance back in, I think, 2010. I don't remember the notes, and I never purchased it. It came out, like, I think with, no, it wasn't. It was the same summer that they had Market Peach and Green Daisy and Peach Bellini first premiered, and Lotus Flower were all out, I believe, and there was, like, a summer melon candle. But let's see. The notes here say, a bright blend as beautiful as a field of golden sunflowers with notes of fresh bergamot and white oak. Now, this is one of those things where they didn't say it smells like a sunflower. They said a blend as beautiful as a field of sunflowers with notes of bergamot and white oak. I mean, a field of flowers to me does not evoke oak. If anything, oak is a little more, you know, autumnal and not really a field of flowers. Now this, I've been racking my brain. I feel like this is a repackage of maybe a failed test scent. First I was thinking it was something from Destinations collection last year. There was a Malibu Heat candle that did not go wide. The same time as like Rio Glow and the original Aloha Waikiki Hibiscus and Hulas. It wasn't that. Then I was thinking it was something from the failed Destinations collection from the test line, since there were 5 or 6 candles this spring that did not make it to the wide release. One of the, like, you know, island florals, but it's not that either. And I checked the Aloha Hawaii collection with the Lani Kai coconut and Rainforest sugarcane, all of those. It's not that. But it smells very familiar, very light. I wouldn't even call it like this is, yeah, it's underwhelming. It's not a strong floral. It's not a strong fresh. It kind of is one of those scents that just meanders around and doesn't have much of a focus to it. Let me try to get a sniff of the actual candle itself. I suppose there's a little bit of bergamot, maybe a little bit of oak. Very light. Yeah, kind of, again, I want to say borders on generic almost. Now, it's not to say that it's bad. I'm like doing my best. I'm not trying to hyperventilate over here, but I want to get a really deep sniff. It's got almost like Lakeside or White Palm has kind of like fresh, a little almost watery, but with a hint of a powder in there that doesn't seem like necessarily a floral powdery note, but definitely some sort of like just a little something that's like a little, could be off-putting, but just adds a little layer of complexity to the blend that I get from this. It almost reminds me a tiny bit of the Cedarwood Oak candle that was a failed test scent from fall of 2012 that came out with Sweater Weather, and a tiny bit of Wildflower Valley, which I believe was a failed test scent from the Lakeside collection last year. Similar to those where it's a floral, but it's a tiny bit powdery. Or I'm sorry, a floral, but there's a little bit like a woodsy powder in there from the oak. So it's a little, yeah, a little bit weird to me. Not full on cologne or anything. Just a little bit strange. So yeah, it reminds me a little bit of the Wildflower Valley, if anyone knew that one. But definitely not a dupe or even a repackage of it with a twist kind of thing. So, again, interesting. It might be nicer when it melts, but I wouldn't bet on it. Finally, the one that I will say right off the bat I do like best, which surprised me, is Majestic Rose. Now, there's something about this that's very... it could go either way between being extremely classic or just a little bit kind of cheesy or cheap looking. I'm going to lean towards classic. Majestic Rose, you know, the nice name. I mean, the image is just, it's just a little bit like, this is sort of the kind of image and label that you could see on like maybe a cheap candle somewhere that was just more kind of generic. The wax, there's something I actually kind of really like about this wax. It's like a mauve. It's not super pink. It's kind of like almost what you would imagine like a pink candle to look like when you started burning it. It gets kind of sooty and gray. But it just seems very, yeah, I guess kind of classic throwback. I don't want to say old world, but just, yeah, simple and classic. And the notes on this one are, experience the most celebrated flower in the garden, a blend of rose petals, violet leaves, and a hint of white amber. So white amber, not surprising to find in a floral, but this definitely makes it sound more like sort of a perfumey floral. And rose scents, I mean, Bath & Body Works really hasn't had any rose scents. Even in their florals, it's not super common to find rose in there. In the fragrance world in general, rose is very common and popular and kind of tends to be a love it or hate it because it can be extremely cloying, extremely overwhelming, or just be powdery and make you feel like you're, stuck next to an old lady with way too much perfume on a hot summer day kind of thing. Not to say that all old ladies do that, but we all know the type. But when I smell it, it is so good. And again, I'm not super into florals. Again, I say that with a lot of things that I buy. I say I'm not super into bakery, not super into florals, but yet look at my collection and there's a ton of both of them. So I'm more, I guess I really, I love and appreciate most some of the amazing kind of herbals or fresh or unique blends. But really, if you give me anything that's a good, authentic, or just really strong and kind of focused blend, I'm gonna like it, I guess. And this is really nice. You definitely get rose, but it's not overwhelming. It seems more like an authentic rose, and I almost smell like a bit of a peony, like peony bush. I guess they're bushes because they seem to be, I had them growing up in our yard and they seem like kind of bushes. But they had the huge flowers on them, and candles sometimes I think peony comes off as like fresher or sweeter, but it reminds me a little bit of that because it's a strong floral without, it doesn't make you sneeze. It doesn't, instantly remind you of, walking into a funeral home or even into a florist. It just seems like fresh and real in a garden. And man, that's really good. And I suppose you get the violets. I'm not violet leaves. Maybe they're saying the truth there with violet leaves because there is in the vein of Flower Shop, there is sort of a green note to this that's very welcome that makes the rose seem more fresh. I mean, this could be fresh picked roses as opposed to Majestic Rose. Majestic makes it sound like it's more of a high-end conceptual blend, which this is a little bit more authentic, I think. Now let's compare this to, I'm going to compare it to Bloom. Bloom is much more green, watery, sweet, and almost fruity. Lotus Flower reminded me actually a tiny bit of Golden Sunflower, but Lotus Flower was way stronger. I don't know the notes in that. A lot of people haven't sniffed that because it came out so long ago. If anyone has not seen it, it was a really strong, it may have had Lily of the Valley in it even, not sure. Lilac Blossom, yeah, nothing like that. Southern Magnolia, I didn't compare this test scent from last year to any of these, but oh boy, I do love that. Strong, sweet magnolias, peach, and honeysuckle. That's such a good watery floral. Sweet watery floral. I think, let it, and there we go. Leave it to me to drop something. It's actually pretty close to Flower Shop, which, again, I've got a little small one here. And the notes on that one were, back a few years back, the delightful scent of fresh cut spring flowers, sweet lilac, pink freesia, and hyacinth layered with cooling greens. There's definitely rose in here. And then, what was that other one this year? Garden Party that I reviewed a video or two ago. Interesting. So this is Garden Party. The notes on that one were pink garden roses, pear blossoms wrapped in soft musk. You would think that Majestic Rose would be close to Garden Party, but it's really not. Garden Party, now that I've sniffed it again and it's been sitting in a warm room, has much more of the pear blossom in it, actually. reminding me of like the drenched apple flower kind of pear blossomy note. The sweet floral. But yeah, so I would actually say the Majestic Rose is probably more similar to, not a dead ringer, but more similar to our, or at least my beloved flower shop than Garden Party, which I also do enjoy. Whereas Flower Shop is just, you know, it is a flower shop. It's a perfect mix of authentic florals, especially that hyacinth, which is like so Easter for me, with those cooling greens. Majestic Rose is a little sweeter, perhaps. Let me see. It's a little bit more of a musk. They say white amber, which can be a little musky, I think. It's a little bit more classic, a little bit more towards a perfume than Flower Shop's authenticity. But when you smell this, if you like florals at all, if you like rose or violets or anything that's just pretty classic, not fresh, not really contemporary, but I don't want to say simple, but there's almost, yeah, I'm getting a weird sweetness when I sniff the lid. But I'm not so much getting it in the candle. Maybe the tiniest bit of the violet is getting a little bit of sweetness. Anyhow, it's really a nice classic fragrance, and I think it does stand up to the rest of the collection. And I do hope that one goes wide, at least. Sunflower, Lily of the Valley, and Garden Farm San Frisia, to me, really don't need to go wide. But Majestic Rose, even if it was released as Majestic Rose Mother's Day something 2014 candle with a different label, or, you know, a one-day only sort of Mother's Day sale candle or something, I think it would make total sense and it would work. More so than the repackage of Paris Daydream and Flirt from last year's, and Sparkling Icicles from last year's Mother's Day candle. So that's about it for this collection. Stay tuned. I do have at least one or two more videos coming up soon. I purchased a few more candles that seem to be newly testing Destinations collection candles, including Magnificent Milan and, let's see, what was it here? I'll give you a quick preview. Cafe Italia. So I'll be doing that video shortly as well. Again, continue the conversation on facebook.com/TouchTheFireTwice, and until next time, take care.